Hogan, good to see you again. Do you notice anything different here?
Sonny has grown a beard.
Sonny has grown a beard. Hello. Wait, no, hold on a second. The screen says Kaelan Dorr. Is that you, Kaelan?
Oh.
Yeah, I identify as Sonny Joy Nelson this afternoon.
Yes.
I have a baby in the other room, and yeah. Hi. Good to see you again.
You looked a lot. Hey, Kaelan, how you doing? Sonny looked a lot better last week, but it's good to see you. What have you been doing?
Much, just plugging along, missing my bros here at the Line Drive Pod. I wanted to just hang and chat with Hogan before we started recording, but he said this has become such a well-oiled machine that there was no need for such pleasantries. So
we call it the LDP now. We just call it the LDP.
The LDP. Well, I mean, that is true. It is a well-oiled machine, and we're about to find out just how well it works because this is the Line Drive Podcast. You see that? That was pretty well-oiled. Didn't you think?
Pretty machine-like, too.
Yeah, very much machine-like. So last Kaelan, you weren't here last week, but I'm sure you watched, just like literally several Americans, the Biden State of the Union address, which, God willing, will be the final one he delivers.
Oh.
We did our show last week and pretty much panned it and called it essentially the worst State of the Union address ever. And before we get to the aftermath, since you weren't here last week, what were your thoughts about President Biden's effort last Thursday night?
Yeah, I mean, I think he did what he thought he had to do. He survived without pooping his pants or falling over, which I think is a really low bar and one that we've got to be careful about setting going forward, right? We need to set the expectation a little higher for him. Therefore, he's not able to achieve kind of the bare minimum requirements of running for office. So, I thought he did what he felt he had to do. I thought the Laken Riley stuff was truly despicable. There's two different camps on the MTG involvement. Hey, it's not, the point is to not get him to say her name. But I think by God's grace, she ended up on top on that exchange. I thought that was great. But again, like, it's just truly shows like how radical, the left is, and that how Biden is being completely and totally held hostage. I mean, the guy's like being held at gunpoint by the far left. And so, if any moderates or leftists, watching this who are looking to cast their vote, just remember that this guy's not going to be able to keep any promise that he makes unless it passes that litmus test that the far right Hamas caucus guys are peddling. So that's the big takeaway for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. And I think you'll see it going forward. But the aftermath of the State of the Union, I think, is what is most instructive, because it does show how much power the left has over him in controlling his behavior. And Sonny, I'm sorry, Hogan. Although, you look good, Hogan, but sorry, I didn't mean to call you Sonny. When you were at the White House and the president had a State of the Union address, what did you try to build around it as far as the president's travel after the fact? Did you try to send him out to key battleground states to try to repeat the message and echo the message that he gave in the big speech? And how did you try to use that to try to build up some momentum for the president going forward after the speech?
Sure. Well, a lot of presidents use it as a springboard to make some announcements in that speech to try and unify the country around some common themes, some strong policies that put the American people first. And then you would send the president on Air Force One to go around and kind of give many State of the Union speeches so they could basically drive that message, begin to frame, a message, build out some type of momentum around your ideology, around your policies, so that heading into an election year, of course, you begin to get people excited about what you're going to do, how you're going to govern. I don't remember if it was before the speech or after the speech or since. I mean, all these places Joe Biden goes when he does this, he's going to places and no one's there. No one wants to hear the guy talk. No one likes his policies. He's underwater. He's getting his teeth kicked in by Donald Trump. A on the economy, on the southern border, on crime. The American people trust the Republicans. They trust Donald Trump way more than they do Joe Biden, and that's difficult to turn around when you give a speech that no one likes. There was no bump after that, and ever since, the media is trying to spin it as if he's some type of not just extremely good orator, but that he's with it, that he doesn't have cognitive, mental, physical decline, that he's really as sharp as he's ever been. No one believes that. You can't tell the American people to ignore what they see. That's not a thing that happens. And so we're kind of running a far field of the question, but the point is you want to take that time after to drive home that message you gave at the State of the Union, but no one's buying what he's selling. So it's a very difficult lift to go out there and try and get people on your side for policies people don't like.
Well,
yeah, it is. Well, go ahead, Kaelan. I was going to step in. Good.
Well, no, I think I kind of want to, and Hogan's just getting up and, okay, this is a well-oiled machine. Oh, you do that now? Okay, good to know. Well, no, I'd love to get your take on it, Tim. Just like, so there isn't a bump, right, afterwards for him. Is that because, my personal theory is that the American dream has kind of died on his watch, and, there's no recovering from that. That's why people love Trump now, especially the young guys. There's been a lot of talk in the wake of this about how, Gen Z millennials are flocking to Trump, places on TikTok and so on and so forth, because I think it's the American dream's dead and they don't trust Joe Biden to resurrect it. I mean, Tim, what do you make of the whole no bump after the State of the Union bit?
Well, I'm not surprised there was no bump, and I think it might even take a little bit of time, because I really do think that unless you are already a diehard Biden supporter and you watched that speech, you came away thinking about the guy less highly than you did going in. If you were somehow unsure about Joe Biden, that speech would push you away from him, I would think. And we talked about this in last week's episode. That moment where, and you're right, when you said at the beginning, when MTG started shouting at him from the seats, you don't know which way it's going to go. And when she was challenging him to say her name, meaning Laken Riley, the 22-year-old nursing student who was murdered, police say, by an illegal alien from Venezuela who had been arrested and then released by the Biden administration back into the country. And he subsequently turned up on the campus of University of Georgia and killed this young woman. When that, you don't know how Biden was going to react. And when he picked up that the pin that she had given him, and he said the name, or he tried to, rather, because he called her Laken Riley. That was a chance for his sister soldier moment, which is when you buck your party and challenge someone who you would think that many people in your party would be aligned with. That was a chance for him to grab it and turn it around, turn the situation around, and act like he's the guy who's going to forcefully take care of preventing such crimes in the future. But he didn't do that, because he appeared to downplay it by saying something along the lines of there were thousands of people who were victims of murder by legals, I think he said. It was all very muddled, but it was a missed opportunity for him. And so that was bad that he missed that opportunity. And I thought he had started off strong, because he referred to the guy from Venezuela. He called him an illegal, said that she had been murdered by an illegal. So it was a strong start, but then he blew it by really trying to downplay it by talking about the thousands of others. And where it really went worse, and this is like Hogan was saying, you try to use the State of the Union as a springboard to go build momentum, and you send the president out around the country. But instead of championing the messages that he had in the State of the Union address, what Biden was forced to do was go apologize all over the place for saying the word illegal. He actually had to apologize. This is the only thing in the whole speech he got right.
It's the only time he told the truth. Right.
Right.
Yeah. And then in the cleanup, right, he didn't apologize to the family of Laken Riley. He didn't apologize for his policies that let this murderer into our country, not just this one, but thousands of others that commit these crimes every single day. He didn't apologize for overturning the previous administration's policies. He didn't apologize to the nation for allowing 8 million people here, 2 million gotaways. He didn't apologize for any of that. He apologized for the semantics. He apologized for calling someone illegal, which, as you noted, Tim, is exactly what the person is. They're in this country illegally. And for him to try and downplay that is insane.
It is insane. Here's the clip. This is an interview that he did with Jonathan Capehart on MSNBC. This is a pretty short clip, 43 seconds. And in it, it's exactly as you just described. This interview, I think, is horrifying.
But during your response to her heckling of you, you used the word illegal when talking about the man who allegedly killed Laken Riley.
An undocumented person. And I shouldn't have used illegal. It's undocumented. And look, when I spoke about the difference between Trump and me, one of the things I talked about on the border was that the way he talks about vermin, the way he talks about these people polluting the blood. I talked about what I'm not going to do, what I won't do. I'm not going to treat any of these people with disrespect. Look, they built the country. The reason our economy is growing. We have to control the border and more orderly flow, but I don't share his view at all.
So you regret using that word?
Yes.
Built the country?
Yeah. Yes, right. He said he's not going to disrespect any of those people, presumably including the alleged murderer that they're talking about, right? So
and by the way, I was unaware because a lot of people on MSNBC, when they get angry and they talk about the black community, they say the black community built America. This is in direct contradiction to that because Joe Biden is now saying illegal aliens who are convicted or accused of murder, they're the ones who actually built the country. Yeah. I'd love to see him try and square that on the left.
Well, so this is the mind of the leftist journalist, right? So here, Jonathan Capehart, the first thing he wants to know is Joe Biden, do you regret using the word illegal? Not do you regret downplaying the murder of this 22-year-old girl? Do you regret, like you said before, enacting the policies that led to her murder? Do you regret releasing this person into the country so that he would eventually go on and commit this murder? None of those things was he asked about. He was asked, do you regret using that word? And he said, yes. And during the course of all that, he said he wants to treat those people with respect, all of those people, all of them, he said, including this guy who is the subject of this very conversation. So of course he's included in the word any. And then he does manage to find time to attack President Trump in there. But this is what's going on now. That we are now approximately a week following the State of the Union address. And you better believe it is still making news, but not in the way that Joe Biden would have wanted. Now we're talking about the fact that he actually apologized for using the word illegal. And then, of course, the White House came out and a White House spokesperson said, no, in fact, he did not apologize.
He didn't apologize.
He did not apologize for using that word. Well, he said he regretted it. So, I mean, does that count as an apology in your book? Anyone?
Well,
what a mess. What a mess. This guy, he is so terrified of the left. He'll apologize for anything they put in front of him and ask him to apologize for. I think this is one of those things, and this is well documented, and we talked about it last week, that Biden's downward spiral in his break with the public and his downward spiral in approval ratings really began with the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan and the 13 American service members. And that will be looked back upon, that Afghanistan withdrawal will be looked back upon as an inflection point in the arc of the Biden administration, because that's when he truly began to lose the support of the public at large.
And
I think that this MSNBC interview with Jonathan Capehart, while not as significant as 13 Americans died, it does have at the center of it the death of a 22-year-old college student, and Biden's continued reaction to this and bowing and groveling in front of the left. Well, this is an utter, it's politically devastating to Biden. And down the road, 8 months from now, I wonder if we'll look back on this, because man, oh man, the clips from that interview can be played ad nauseum in anti-Biden television ads. That was a huge, huge interview for Biden. And man, oh man, did he blow it. He blew it because he's terrified of the left. Terrified. You can tell.
Yeah. Those interviews are set up so that you can succeed, right? Those are the ones that are set up so you can knock it out of the park. And it's like when the Hur report came out and all the things we saw in public were amplified by what was going on in private, by people who were around him going, this guy doesn't have mental capability.
Vroom, vroom.
Then he says, hey, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just do an impromptu press conference to show you how with it I am.
Right.
And then he literally shows you how not with it he is, how he can't complete sentences, how his mind wanders, how he isn't in control. And this is the same type situation. He has a speech laid out in these State of the Union speeches, folks. You get sections delivered to you by different cabinet agencies for different plans they want. They're vetted through attorneys, through the president himself, through chiefs of staff, through the comms team. Everyone takes a look at this, and it is so deliberate. He does that, fails, then has to go out there and you set up something. All right, I'm going to put you on with Jonathan Capehart. This should be an easy interview. He's going to ask you the obvious question. You go out there and just clean it up, knock it out of the park. And he failed there too.
Yeah.
I mean, it is so bad right now. And honestly, I'm not surprised at all. It just, you want your presidents to show some level of strength, of capacity, of capability.
Consciousness.
Doesn't do that. Doesn't do it.
What was that word? What would you say, Kaelan?
Well, just consciousness. He's
yeah.
He's like a walking cadaver, dude. It's not even like a real person walking around.
So that was, I mean, clearly the first major interview that he did following State of the Union was to go to MSNBC. It was obvious cleanup duty, right? Somebody said the left is really mad. They're big mad that you said the word illegal. You got to go over there and smooth it over. So he absolutely prostrates himself in front of Jonathan Capehart as, mea culpa. I should never have used that word. And then the White House, like, oh gosh, he went too far. No, he didn't apologize. I mean, that sounded like an apology to me. When you say, I should have used this other word, not that word, and yes, I regret it. I mean, aren't those pretty much significant elements of an apology? I don't know.
But if you're trying to say he didn't apologize, what was the point in the first place?
Right.
Like, you
that was the purpose of the interview.
The purpose of the interview is to say, I didn't really mean that. I shouldn't have said illegal. And then
right.
The White House is asked, like, no, he didn't apologize. Wait a minute. What was the point of all that then?
Right. So get him to say it again. If he's not sorry, is he going to say it again?
Yeah, exactly.
It's that meme where the kid is like poking the thing on the ground. He's like, come on, say it.
Right. That's it.
You'll add that in post. Yeah.
We'll take that out in post. That'd be fine. There's news. There's always news in Trump world, but some charges got dismissed down in Georgia. Hogan, what do you make of that? 6 charges overall. Some of his co-defendants, Trump is had been featured on or included in 3 of those charges. So his total number of charges that he's now facing in all the 4 jurisdictions is now reduced to 88. But it's chipping away, and I don't think this is going in the direction that the prosecutor Fani Willis is sure not having a good couple of months here.
It's not. Look, I was really happy to hear it, but it doesn't end this case. It's going to continue, and so this judge, and I actually put out a tweet about this to the effect of saying, look, regardless of how you feel. Of whether he should or shouldn't kind of dismiss Fani Willis. The question I had was, will Judge McAfee, who currently faces an election challenge from his left, actually disqualify Fani Willis? And of course, no is winning 62-38 as of right now, as of recording time here, because I think at the end of the day, these things are moving in Trump's direction, but there are a couple big dominoes yet to fall. And the judge said by the end of this week that he's going to make a decision on Fani Willis. I mean, she perjured herself on the stand. She clearly has botched this. She's ruined the reputation of the DA's office as well. But all of that goes to slow down this process, which is not what the prosecution wants, which is exactly what Donald Trump wants. So either way, and I'm not an attorney. I don't think any of us are attorneys, but it looks like this is a really big win. A lot more still out there, obviously. A lot of landmines still out there, but this is a big one.
It is a big one. My dad the other day just told me that I should because you don't have to go to law school to sit for the bar exam. He said you should go take the bar exam just so you don't have to keep saying I'm not a lawyer all the time.
You could stay at a Holiday Inn Express.
Just for that. Like, I don't know. That seems like a lot of trouble to go through to not have to say, well, I'm not a lawyer, but at the moment,
you just say I'm not a practicing lawyer. So either way, saying what you're not.
Right. Kaelan, you've been watching this. Do you think this is significant? The fact that this handful of charges has been tossed? I mean, I think it matters. Certainly, I'm sure Trump, who's facing those charges, is glad that they're gone. But he still faces a lot. But in the scheme of in the scope of a public relations issue, it's kind of a big deal to get charges dismissed. You'd rather see that headline than anything else.
No, 100%.
Right.
I think this is a huge deal. Some of the things that I still have questions about that I think the American public deserves answers, or they spend considerable time talking about the trips that she took to the White House, for example, to meet with Kamala Harris, and so to counter argue Hogan's point. I'm wondering if maybe this guy gets a call and it says, someone says, this is obviously conspiracy theory stuff. I'm just kind of speculating wildly, but honestly, given the way things have been going, it wouldn't surprise me. Someone gives him a call and says, we'll drop the challenge from the left if you get rid of her, because there's a lot of, this is like kind of the tip of the iceberg stuff. A lot of the facts are pretty suspect. This whole thing is just a little too good to be true in a lot of ways. And, I get that Donald Trump is the luckiest, most blessed man to have ever existed, clearly, in order to keep getting, having things break his way. It almost feels too good to be true, and that there's something else is going on, that someone somewhere got sloppy. But again, that's just wild speculation. Again, did you ever see a world where any of this was happening? No. 2 months ago, I said you're freaking crazy. So that's kind of like where my head goes. Obviously it's a win, but I'm kind of a pessimistic guy personally. So I'm looking at hey, what's next? Is this guy going to let her off just because there's other stuff going on? I imagine there's something else is afoot, because it's all almost too good to be true. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think you at the beginning of that, you said he's the luckiest, most blessed man. First of all, I don't know if he would agree with you on that with regard to all these legal issues that he's got piled up in front of him. But he does what?
He finds a way to slip out of a lot of them.
Well, yeah, and he is in fact blessed by the nature of some of his enemies. Because
and he's the most masculine occupant that the White House has ever seen. Right, Hogan?
That is true. Fact check true.
Yeah, that is true. That's that's a reference to something that Hogan once said in the media about how Donald Trump is the most masculine president we've ever had, which I guess not debatable.
I was asked if Twitter emasculated him by not letting him tweet, kicking him off the platform.
Yeah,
I was like, that's stupid. He's like the most masculine president I've ever had. I don't understand what your problem is. Fact check true.
So good. He's blessed by the nature of some of his enemies. Fannie Willis is pretty obvious, and her prosecutor boyfriend, who she appointed to handle the case. But they're still in charge though. And like in DC, for example, how hard do you think it's going to, in the DC case, how hard do you think it's going to get? How hard will it be to find a jury in Washington, D.C. that would convict Donald Trump when it's 96% Democrat?
I think they actually went 98 for Biden, 98% for Biden.
98? Okay, so there you go.
98, whatever.
And you have Mark Elias, the Democrat lawyer who runs around the country trying to change election laws so you can cheat at will. That's his brand, is that he tries to reduce election security all over the place. He was crowing.
Bizarro Hogan. That's how I describe Mark Elias.
Yes, that's exactly. He's like your negative universe opposite number.
He's out of shape. He's fighting against election integrity.
Yeah,
he wears his hats with a bill.
Oh, he wears his cap with the bill facing, which is, by the way, in the correct manner. As we've already covered, you're not a lawyer, and he is. So
that's true. There you go. I'll think about that.
But Mark Elias crowed on X the other day, laughing about how easy it was going to be to find a jury to convict Donald Trump. We're like, yeah, why do you suppose they chose that jurisdiction?
Yeah,
my goodness, and also New York City. Manhattan. What I don't know the numbers, but Manhattan was hugely in Biden's column. Yeah.
Jurisdictions are going to be a problem here.
That's a real problem. Because some people I want to get to this thing. This isn't a huge issue, but it's something I saw online that annoys me. Are you guys familiar with NJ.com, NewJersey.com? It's a news outlet in New Jersey. So Eric Carmen, who is a singer-songwriter, and you might remember him. He wrote the song and recorded the song "All by Myself." It was a pretty big hit.
Yeah.
That was not Rush. No.
Rest in peace, Sonny.
Anyway, Eric Carmen died, and here is his obituary on NJ.com. And I'm not going to bother to share my screen. I'll just hold the screen up to the camera here. It says, "Trump supporting singer-songwriter dies." That's the headline in NJ.com. Trump supporting singer-songwriter dies. That's not Eric Carmen dies, not, famous. He was a member of a group called the Raspberries, which had a bunch of hits years ago. So it wasn't his name or anything else. It was that he was a Trump supporter who died. You had to read the obituary to find out who, in fact, has died. What did you need to know other than the fact that he supported Trump? So a lot of people complained, and people tweeted about it and said this is an outrageous headline for an abortion, for an obituary, which was an abortion of an obituary. And so they changed the headline. They fixed it, and this is what they changed it to. Can you see that? A legendary singer-songwriter who faced widespread backlash for supporting Trump dies at 74. They still don't put his name in there. And Donald Trump's name is the only name in the headline of this man's obituary.
That could be all of like 4 people,
Legendary singer-songwriter who faced widespread backlash for supporting Trump dies at 74. This is their improved headline.
It's that guy, Ted Nugent, and Kid Rock, and that's and John Rich, right? Like that's about it. So there's your 4. That's unbelievable, Tim.
Yeah, it really is unbelievable. This is how bad Trump has broken some people, that you have a successful musical artist who dies, and he doesn't even get his own name in the headline of his obituary. Instead, they feel compelled to mention
Donald Trump. Yeah.
We're on totally different parts of Twitter, apparently, because my Twitter has been like memes and Sydney Sweeney for like 2 weeks now.
Oh, you didn't get
Kate Middleton.
You didn't get Eric Carmen's obituary? Yeah, you know what? I'm glad you said Kate Middleton.
Oh, we're going to talk about
Kaelan? Yeah, you know what? We didn't prep anything. I want to hear what your thoughts are about the whole Kate Middleton thing, and then more specifically, this crazy Photoshop.
Do we curse on this podcast?
Well, we try not to.
We try not to.
I think the last person who cursed on this podcast was probably you.
Was you? Yeah.
I don't know. I know Sonny's prone to dropping an F-bomb here or there. Look,
my mother listens to this podcast.
Okay, all right. Sorry, is that Janet?
Yes.
Janet likes a lot of my tweets.
How did you know that?
She likes a lot of my tweets, so she
does.
Friends.
Oh, because she knows who you are.
Murtaugh.
How about that? Yes, this is the first time. I guarantee you, this is the first time that my mother's name has been mentioned in a podcast.
Well, that's a shame, man.
My father's name gets mentioned all the time because it's the same as mine, Tim Murtaugh.
But you don't mention your mother on the pod ever? I thought you said this was
not by name, I don't think.
Listen, here's my take on the Kate Middleton thing, all right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Janet, if I accidentally let one slip, I'm sorry in advance. You expect me to believe, as I don't know all the background, all I know is that there's this photo. She's been gone for like almost a month or something like that. She's been gone for forever. And as they've released a proof of life photo of her where her hand is clearly photoshopped, like bizarrely, and there's like no wedding ring.
And the hand and her kids' hands are weird.
It's all weird. It makes no sense.
There's problems with the sweaters. Yeah.
Yeah. They removed the photos. I'm doing Trump hands. They removed the photos, okay, because they said that she had edited them. You expect me to believe Kate freaking Middleton secured an Adobe Photoshop license and is spending her free time editing her hands in photos? That makes no freaking sense. That makes no sense. No one even practicing doing it. That's not what you would do. You'd Photoshop yourself fighting Godzilla or something. You would never Photoshop your hands on a photo of your kids. And like, what is that? That is nonsense. And like, think of it too. There's the photo of the old guy maybe the old king. I don't know. I'm not really into the whole royal family thing. Carly talks about it all the time. But there's that famous photo of the member of the royal family who looks like he's dead, like in the front of the car. You know what I'm talking about? He's like sitting there like this. They released that and didn't pull it down. Okay.
Oh,
So like, what the heck is happening? Are we not concerned?
Well, see, there's a couple things are weird about it. Like you just said, she's spending her time sitting there in front of Photoshop, doing this, and then, but if I'm not mistaken, I think this is hard to tell what's real and what's not these days, really, honestly. But I think Buckingham Palace put out a statement from her describing how she did it in Photoshop, that it's a little hobby and she's an amateur photo editor.
What?
Right. So, but the thing is, the reason why there's been all this wild speculation is she went in to have abdominal surgery a couple months ago and has disappeared from view ever since then. And like it's really funny that they I don't know why this strategy that hasn't worked for them, because it always worked in the past. I watched The Crown.
We're watching The Crown. We're on the Prince
I'm done.
Forgive me,
I'm
fellas. I've watched The Crown, so I'm an expert on the royal family, I feel.
Yeah.
I've
been to Buckingham Palace. Does that make me an expert on the royal?
It makes you a royal, actually.
Yeah, well, more than me. That might make you a member of the royal family, to be honest.
I went with
that's clearly how that works.
I haven't checked the bylaws. But the strategy that they usually employ is let's ignore it and don't say anything and it'll go away. And shockingly, it's not working. Because that's what they tried to do. So they found time to put out a statement from Kate about how she's this amateur Photoshop person, but that for 2 months they wouldn't address the speculation that she was gravely ill because she hasn't been seen.
So Tim, I consulted my personal UK PR expert, aka my wife. She says that to say on the air that Queen Elizabeth would have taken care of the PR, but liberal UK doesn't want a monarchy anymore, and they haven't wanted one for almost 30 years, which is evident from if you've watched The Crown. So that's what she wanted me to say. So
okay.
I expect that there's a lot of people who don't want the monarchy anymore and think that it's outlived its usefulness. I still think it's actually kind of cool. I like the majesty of it, and I think it's cool. But there's enough people. You still see that there's enough people in Great Britain who still love the monarchy.
Yeah, sure.
I think the people who are tired of it is probably a minority.
It's good for the corgi industry. Yeah.
Good for the what industry?
Is thriving. That's true. I don't get it. I saw the Photoshop and I was just like, okay, clearly Photoshopped. I'm more concerned that she's okay. Like, I'd like to know about her health. I'm sure many people in the UK would. I do watch The Crown. I finished it.
It's good, huh?
It's really good. I finished it. Well, I was caught up, and then this last season I just finished.
How much Downton Abbey have you watched, Hogan?
Finished that too, bro. Yeah. We're done. I'm all England up here.
I'm seeing it all.
But anyway, yeah. Even weirder though. Have you guys seen this story about Macron and his wife?
No, I saw a reference to it.
Candace Owens popped off on this, right?
Yes, she did. She absolutely did. But now it's like everywhere. That the allegation is that Macron's wife, who, remember, she's 70 and he's like 45. So there's this weird way their relationship started. She was married, had 3 kids or something like that. And then she was his teacher in school. And again, I may be getting all this wrong, but I just remember hearing about this. So sorry. But then the allegation is that Macron's wife is a transgender man, is a man. That they have been.
Thank you.
Like, you'll pull it up if you're looking it up now, Tim. And they're just like, just show us some pictures of when you were a kid. Show some pictures of you.
Like the Michelle Obama argument.
Yeah, and they haven't done it. At least not that I've seen. They may have, but just this is the kind of stuff that's all over the internet. And I'm like, come on, can we focus on something else?
I mean, don't you kind of dig talking about stuff like this every once in a while instead of
Hogan's got time for that.
Do what, Kaelan?
Hogan ain't got time for that.
Yeah, no.
No, I mean, neither do I. But you know what was pretty funny? Somebody pointed out, some reporter on Twitter, I can't remember who now, pointed out that every DC comms staffer was rushing to Twitter to tweet that if I could have been able to prevent this PR fiasco, I would have stopped the publication of that picture in the first place. Fine, whatever. Yeah. But
I could have gotten Donald Trump to stop tweeting. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Don't you wouldn't you have thought that the Buckingham Palace would have a little bit tighter control on what goes out? I mean, they haven't said a word about this whole situation in 2 months, and they let this picture get released. And I mean, all they got to do is
we're waiting for something, right? Like this is your first, right? Had this been like the 6th part of like a series of things they were releasing to show her on the mend and being better and being in good health and good spirits, and then this shows up, you're like, oh, that was a mistake. We were just playing around with Photoshop. But this was like the first foot forward.
Yeah, it's Mother's Day in the UK, so they put it out. But I agree. What if, like, she had abdominal surgery and she just looks like totally different, and then it's like, what were you doing? Like, that's like where my head goes is like, how much worse is this going to get for them? Because I think it's awful, right? Like, hopefully she's okay, but it is pretty funny.
Well, the PR snafu side of it.
I mean, I hope she's okay.
Yeah,
sure.
I really do. But this whole thing is just it's amazing. Like when I saw the picture the first time and you zoom in on it, you're like, yeah, that looks kind of funny. That's obviously unless there's a tear in the space-time continuum. Anyway, yeah. Here's the
in a time where literally we could plug us all into AI and this podcast could go off without a hitch with all of our voices and all of our faces and all of our movements. And most people would never even know the difference.
We could be
You
AI.
Can't get a picture right.
Yeah, I know.
We could be AI right now, Hogan.
So meta.
Speaking of AI, here I'm glad. I think this was actually a good move for the Palace to put this one out. This was a video from Kate.
Hi guys, it's me, the Princess of Wales. Thank you all for your concern and well wishes, but as you can see, I am currently alive and well, so now we can hopefully put this issue to bed. Hi guys, it's me, the Princess of Wales.
Thought that was pretty funny.
Thank you.
That's about as legitimate as the other thing.
I like Tim showing us his phone too all the time.
Yeah, well,
why wouldn't you hold your phone up to the TV?
What kind of tab you got open? You're afraid to show us there, dude.
What's that?
What kind of tabs do you have open on your computer you don't want us to see?
No, it's just that I think it's cumbersome to do the old share screen thing, and then I don't know.
Sure.
Anyway, Kaelan, it's been good to have you. What you got? Anything else you want to talk about? You mentioned Kate Middleton. You got us down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, my bad.
That's all right. Anything
else?
If
I know I'd be exposing Hogan as an Anglophile, or that's what you call it?
That's right. What? An Anglophile, yeah.
I'm good. Let's go, baby.
Yeah.
No, if
I didn't. I got to tell you, I did not peg you for somebody who watched The Crown, Hogan.
Me?
Yeah, me neither.
Oh my gosh, why? I'm English, for heaven's sakes.
Are you?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. You're always going hunting out in Arkansas and going down to South Carolina football games and talking about the SEC and
but what he's not
Ole Miss and all that whole thing.
What he's not telling you is that he grows his own tea for hottie toddies, and that's what he's doing.
Anyway, yeah. Do you not? They hunt on that show all the time. I mean, there's
That's
video
a different kind of hunting.
Taking down a stag.
What? No.
They're doing the bird hunting all the time. What are you talking about?
Do you hunt? Well, you do hunt with.
They're in the Land Rover. They're in the Land Rovers with the barber coats and the whole mud and the rain and the whole thing. Like that's 80% of the show.
Yeah, but do you do that? Is that the kind of hunting you do?
I've bird hunted before. Yes, pheasant.
Yeah, you've hunted with dogs.
Show us the room, Hogan. How many corgis are there with you right now?
Yeah, that's a good one. How many corgis do you have?
Oh, I don't like corgis. They're freakish.
They are freakish.
Oh, so I'm gonna get in a lot of trouble because you're thinking about dogs, but I don't understand them. They make me nervous.
Yeah, I can understand that.
That's me. And
they're like standard poodles. They make me nervous.
Standard poodles can be like as big as a horse.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but the corgis, they're a little unsettling because they have normal appearing bodies with tiny little legs.
Sounds like Brian Fellows.
Yeah, that bird is a liar.
That poodle is scary.
All right, guys. On that note, that's pretty good.
Great.
Kaelan, good to have you back. Nice to see you.
It's good to be back.
Hogan, as always. Appreciate it. I'm Tim Murtaugh, and this has been the Line Drive Podcast.